Hello and welcome to Suffragette City Radio Extra, also known as Suffragette City Radio After Dark. I'm Sobering Maid.
And I'm DJ Lippy.
What are we talking about today?
We are talking about our journeys in what is known as peak trans.
Right. And what is peak trans? What is this phrase and what does it mean?
It's a phrase that's come about to describe the journey of somebody who was previously quite sympathetic to transgender people, the movement in general. Usually somebody from a left-wing, sort of right-on activisty background who slowly, throughout time, has various things happen and that makes them think and question till they eventually reach what is known as peak trans.
Yeah,
which is the moment when you realise, oh, there's something really, really, really wrong here. Oh my god, nope. Peak trans.
Yeah. That's a really good explanation there. That's pretty much it. The trans ideology, you peak.
Yeah, you realise it's actually just sexism, trans that's sort of presented as the opposite of what it actually is. So it seems on the surface that you're celebrating gender non-conformity and, you know, people can be whatever they want to be, which is brilliant. Like, I'm like, yeah, go ahead. But when you actually break it down, you realise that it's all based on stereotypes that are actually quite damaging for women. And the more you look into different elements of the movement, the more you realise there's like lots and lots and lots of problems that we need to like talk about, and then you try and talk about it and you're just demonised and called a TERF and threatened and receive a ton of abuse, which doesn't really do anything to assuage you that this is not a really misogynistic movement.
Yep. And I think, oh god, I've not put my phone on silent. That's a rookie error, isn't it?
There.
Yeah, that's right, it's going on silent. And I want to say as well, obviously I have sympathy and empathy for people who are distressed.
Oh, yes.
And have gender dysphoria. But like now I've got the qualifiers out of the way. The ideology that underpins it all is absolutely insane.
Yeah, well, and it's something which I think a lot of transsexual people who maybe have transitioned many years ago are finding themselves also in the firing line of this ideology. They were known as true scum in the movement, which is a wonderful term.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it's not only us that are finding ourselves.
And what's true scum? Why true scum?
I don't know where that came from.
I think it's the true trans.
Is it true trans? Yeah. Well, there's a big of a debate between some people in the trans movement who have full surgery and take lots of hormones and go the full way. Basically, the traditional transsexual has sort of legitimacy, which I think a lot of people who have a fully functioning penis never intend to take hormones, with a beard, calling themselves Susan, demanding to come into your women-only swim session. You're gonna say like, fuck off, Susan. But you know, I think we all have a lot more sympathy for somebody who's genuinely, you know, sort of has a I want to say a doctor's note. It's not what I mean. It means, you know, somebody who's making efforts to transition as the opposite sex.
Yeah.
And they are often in trouble with the people in the transgender movement as it is now.
Yeah, I think they tend to have a better grasp of the fact that there is a difference between men who transition and women as well. And a lot of the current transgender rights movement say if you point out that there's a difference between being born female and being born male and transitioning, that you're horrible. So I think this word true scum is kind of like because these old school transsexuals believe that, you know, in sort of true trans and true gender dysphoria and they're scum, so they call them true scum. I think that's what it is.
It's not a very nice word.
No,
really, is it?
It's just another term to silence, isn't it?
Yeah,
All these things, it's just something that you lob at the people that you don't like or you don't agree with. You can just call them a name and it's supposed to shut them up.
Yeah.
Instead of actually like
listening to what they're saying.
Instead of, they just say, oh, shut up, true scum, or you're just true scum, you don't know what you're talking about, blah blah blah. My friends are literally dying.
It's like school, honestly, I swear to God. Who calls people names like that this day and age?
So we decided that we would talk about our peak trans stories, our peak trans journeys. Maybe maybe they are things that you thought of as well. Maybe it is where telling it, you go, yeah, that I remember when that happened,
yeah.
and it, you know, I started to question it then as well, and to just have a laugh at the insanity of it all, because it is and it's quite funny actually. Like, I can find a lot of black humor in it, but maybe that's just me, or maybe just kind of,
maybe you just have no soul.
But like, I think it's like a cultural thing as well. I don't know, maybe like just being northern and stuff, like you find a lot of black humor in a lot of stuff, and also just a lot of it is just objectively hilarious.
It is objectively, yeah, no, definitely.
So
am I going first?
Yeah, go on.
So started out, and like I say, I've always thought of myself as pretty like a good ally, I suppose. Loved Drag Race, seen every series. Transparent, watched all of that. I remember years ago, do you remember Sex Change Hospital? It used to be on Channel 4. And
I never watched it though.
Oh my god, I used to watch it all the time. And
I'm very squeamish, so I never watched it.
Well, I'm trained as a nurse, so I know I like that thing. Honestly, I'm disgusting. But anyway, I wasn't watching it for the inversions or like the surgeries. It was the stories of the patients, you know, waking up, and I would just always burst into tears. Like, so I've always had a lot of like, so I guess protective feelings, I suppose. I was gender non-conforming myself from the age of like 3 till 10. I was a proper tomboy, like really short hair, no girlfriends, always played with the lads. So I've sort of, you know, like gender non-conforming now, I suppose. Did
you ask anybody to call you a different name or anything?
I did. Yeah, I said my name was Colin. I can't remember this, but apparently when I was 3, I was like, no, my name's Colin. So it's the worst name ever to choose.
I like it. I like that it's quite mundane.
Yeah, there was a boy called Colin who I think I really liked, so I think I just, you know, you like when you're 3, you just copy any. You know what I mean?
You want to be the person that you like.
Yeah. So yeah, I had a name, and you know, I think being bisexual as well. It's funny enough, actually, before this all kicked off, I can't remember what it was, but it was a few years ago now. I can't remember how the conversation come up, but I was round at my mate's house, and it was games night, and we were talking, and transgenderism came up, and she got really upset about this at this point. She was like, I just know, they can't become. She was like, no, I don't think it's possible to change sex. They can call themselves what they want and do what they want, but they're not women. And at the time, I remember, like, it felt like somebody had stabbed me. Do you know what I mean? And it's this feeling like that. I don't know if you feel this way, like when your friend is being like bigoted. But I think as well, because I'm bisexual, it's like if I hear somebody being homophobic, it's like a little knife, and especially if it's somebody that I care about, it really hurts. So it was that same feeling that I got with her, because they have all been sort of put together in the umbrella. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, just admit you hate me, like just admit you don't like gay people, do you know what I mean? Just admit you're homophobe. Like, that's the feeling that I had in myself. But because she's a good friend, because we're both good friends with each other, we were both like, okay, let's leave it, let's not talk about this.
And it hurts when it's a friend as well, because you think, I didn't think that you thought those things.
Yeah, it seemed very backwards to me, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we sort of, you know, sometimes you're with a friend and there's like a little barrier of like you don't go there.
Yeah.
Because we might not be friends afterwards.
Yeah.
So we both decided to leave it and, you know, got on with the game, and it was fine. But that sort of, I remembered that when everything started coming to the fore, because soon after that, my Facebook friend, Venice Allen, started going mad and posting loads of stuff like, do women have penises? Like, and I was like, yes, Venice, some women do have penises.
Oh, you were one of them.
well, I didn't, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, yeah, well, it is possible, like, you know.
But you do, don't you? Because you have sympathy, everything people tell you.
I'd watched Transparent. I knew how it all worked. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. If they feel that way inside, they are that way. Yeah.
But to be honest, I was curious, and she was, you know, raising some points, but, you know, you got your life to live. You're not, you know, I mean, it was in the back of my mind. And then she did this event, a talk, and I can't remember, I think it was featuring Julia Long was going to be speaking, and Miranda Yardley, who is a transsexual, who's very much critical of the transgender movement at the moment. And they were due to have it with a person from Stonewall who pulled out at the last minute. But then, and so I saw this event and it looked cool. And, you know, it's just your mates putting on an event and you're like, oh, that's cool. Do you know what I mean? I was in Manchester at the time, so I wasn't in London. So I was like, I'm not going to go, but like, you know, good luck. And then I heard that it got harassed. The venue was harassed. So it was closed down, the talk. So it was due to be held, I think, in New Cross Learning Centre. And then it got abuse from people saying, you know, this is horrible, transphobic, you can't hold it here. So they managed to find a new venue last minute, and they arranged to meet in Hyde Park Corner. So all the women came down for this meeting, and it was basically set upon by a load of Antifa types. And this is the famous moment.
And what are Antifa?
Anti-fascists. So basically middle class lads who like putting like things over their face and shouting it like, you know, old women. So yeah, it was Hyde Park Corner. And it was quite a famous incident, actually. I think I've heard a lot of people that says this was the moment when they started to go, hang on a minute. A woman was punched by a trans right activist, a trans woman by the name of...
It's Tanis Wolff.
Tara Wolff. Yeah. That's what he calls himself Tara Wolff, but his name is Tanis. So yeah, that's when I started going, hang on a minute. So there was a bit of a hoo-ha about that. So after then, I spent about 6 months looking into it, on and off, not obsessively, but just being like, there's a bit more here. But trying to find out what was going on was so difficult because the information was so hard to find. Like, I was looking at stuff like for mermaids, and I was reading it and just like, this is just saying bullshit, but there's no sources, there's no evidence. I'm quite a smart person, me, so I wasn't just taking things on face value. So all the things I was reading from the transgender stuff, I was like, where's the sources for this? So I was trying to find information about where that all came from, then also reading on the other side, the other side of the arguments, and actually going like, this is actually quite coherent. But all the time I was warned about these nasty evil TERFs.
Right, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And how awful these TERFs were, and how these TERFs were like been suppressing transgender people since like forever. So I was very cautious. I better be careful not to talk to any of these TERFs. Do you know what I mean? And so, but I did lots and lots of research. Honestly, 6 months. And then I started to quietly talk on Twitter, which probably isn't the best place to discuss these matters. But I just genuinely started to, ask questions of people, both sides. And the backlash that I got from literally just saying anything slightly untoward. I think it was, I was speaking to the mother of a trans child, and I said something along the lines of, it seems a little bit unfair to me that TERFs are getting the blame for all of the deaths of trans women, or, the trans community violence, because they're radical feminists, and feminists don't tend to be listened to by the sort of men who go around beating up trans women.
Yeah.
And I just got like a tirade of abuse, and I actually ended up fucking apologising to this woman the next day, because I was like, oh my god, I've really offended her. Oh my god, I'm such a bad person. Yeah. And literally a week later, I was like, hang on a minute. Why are all these people being really horrible to you? Why are you apologising to them? Who's not? Do you know who isn't being nasty to you and mean to you? Do you know who's been quite nice and funny and like not actually an arsehole? I was like, the TERFs. I was like, are they that bad, the TERFs? And I was like, I don't know. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're right. But yeah, but like, everyone hates them. I know. But maybe they've got something right. And then I found Magdalene Burns, and then it was like, watched all the videos, and I was like, fucking hell, they're right, aren't they? And it was, do you know what the question was? It was, do lesbians have penises? And I thought about it, I was like, no, lesbians don't have penises. It's really offensive to say lesbians have penises. If you think about it, it's an offensive statement, really, isn't it? It's an offence to lesbians, and to lesbianism, and for all the years that lesbians have had to fight for the authority to say, I don't want dick, please. Yeah. Put it away. And that was a long battle. I mean, it's taken, generations.
It's so homophobic as well to call masculine women men. Like lesbians often just get called men as well as an insult. Yeah, when people are trying to put them down. So it's just homophobic, really homophobic, to say that lesbians do have penises because they're just men. Yeah,
I mean, and that was it to me. It's like, do lesbians have penises? And I was like, no. And then another part of my brain went, if lesbians don't have penises, do women have penises? And I was like, no. And it's like, when do they have a sex change? And I was like, at what point does the sex change? And I was like, I mean, is it when they start to pass? Like, there's a good argument that if somebody is living as the opposite sex and genuinely passing, that they do have an insight into that sex's lived experience. So that's an argument, but still, are they?
Yeah.
No. Did they have a girlhood or a boyhood? No. Okay. And it sort of all fell down into like a cascade of just like, this doesn't actually make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. No, lesbians don't have penises. Goldsmith's education has really done a number on me. You know what I mean? I feel like all that university education, it made me stupider. Because I couldn't just be like, no, of course they don't. No, fuck off. Do you know what I mean? I was like, actually.
Yeah, I'll consider this perspective.
And Goldsmiths is a very woke university, and it was full of postmodernism and I didn't know so much queer theory, because I just always thought queer theory was just a bit bullshit and niche. But you know, a lot of the thinking that goes into making people think that women have penises, I was subjected to during university, and I swear it's made me like thicker, because I can't just see honestly what's right in front of me, which I'm trying to unlearn all of that £50,000 worth of education and put to use, haven't I? So yeah, that's my peak trans story.
And you've not looked back since?
Well, I don't know. Like, I thought I'll just do a little bit, but it's like some weird, like a black hole. It just sort of sucks you in, and you can't seem to get out of it. And then I got doxed by a certain doctor, and that really pissed me off, because I was like, I'm just going to be like a little footnote in this story now, and that little twat, I'm going to just be that woman who got like doxed by that knobhead. And I was like, I'm not having that. I'm not having him define me. So I was like, I'm just going to start doing loads of shit. And then I guess the rest is history.
We did start doing shit.
Yeah, we did, didn't we? So yeah, and then we met at one of Venice's events, didn't we?
Yeah,
but we didn't actually meet there, did we?
No, but we were both there in attendance.
Yeah.
And then we were in a chat group,
a WhatsApp group
after, with a bunch of people, and then we did meet up and decided that we should actually try and do something.
Yeah. Should we do a blog? Yeah, let's do a blog. Should we do a podcast? Yeah, let's do a podcast. Should we do an event? Yeah, let's do an event. But yeah, so that's our story, isn't it? Well, that's not our story. That's my story.
It's really, because I don't think I've ever actually heard your proper peak trans story. I obviously know that you peaked, and we've talked about elements of that. But that's really interesting to actually hear the chronology and what your thought process was.
Yeah, it's. Again, I'm probably summarising a lot and cutting things out, because there's probably bits that I've forgotten about. I was like, oh yeah, that happened as well, didn't it? But that's the gist of it. Do you wanna? Should we read something out funny? I don't know if this is funny, but I saved this, right, because this is after I'd peaked trans, and to be honest, reading back at these messages, right, I think I had peaked trans a long time ago, but it's that cognitive dissonance. It's not speaking about it. So this was a Twitter conversation that I got into with a lesbian, shall we call her? That's what a Twitter handle was, lesbian.
Okay.
A male lesbian. And there's a lot of talk about the cotton ceiling and how lesbian spaces have been invaded by trans-identified males who say they're lesbians, which obviously is not homophobic at all. So do you want? Hang on. Should we do this as a conversation?
Oh,
so
okay.
you read one side.
Right.
Do you want to be? I'll be me.
Okay.
And you can be lesbian. Right?
So where am I starting? You starting?
So I'll start.
Okay,
right.
fine.
We'll just do this whole thing, and you. I don't know.
I'm going to do a woke voice now. I hope you know.
Right, hang on. I don't think you understand human biology, do you? Woman is not a gender identity. You cannot choose to be a woman. You are born a woman with a woman's body. You can make cosmetic alterations to your body, take hormones, even have a lady brain, brackets. It does not make you a woman.
Lol, don't call yourself a socialist. You'd rather side with pro-life Tories and consider the fact that you're wrong about something which you have zero experience in. How does it feel to be on the losing side? The mainstream left doesn't want your aggressive views anymore.
How do you know? That's a bit judgmental, don't you think? Assuming someone's gender like that. You don't know what you're talking about, do you? The Gender Recognition Act is a Tory law. Theresa May fully supports these proposed changes. Also, lesbians don't have penises.
Your brother's calling you.
Professional.
I wasn't talking about that. TERF supported a Tory-endorsed event which was there to attack trans people, and I prefer the term girl cock. But you can think about it however you want, baby. Kissy face emoji.
It's not a girl cock, it's a penis.
As I said, just keep imagining it. Kissy face emoji. Maybe we should take this to DMs. It's wrong to be horny on my main.
I wondered how long it'd take you to get all weird and rapey.
You're the one who keeps bringing up my penis. I'm just flirting. Baby, I'm sorry. Heart emoji, heart emoji. If you're going to bring up my penis, I'm going to flirt. Why else would you start talking about my girl cock?
You started talking about your penis. I stated a scientific fact. Women don't have penises.
You were the first to bring up lesbians with penises. Why are you talking about genitalia if you're not flirting?
Also, stop trying to pass...
Oh no, that's me again.
Yeah.
Also, stop trying to pass off your assumptions as facts. For one, it's horribly unscientific, and secondly, it's a terrible way to flirt.
Okay, I'm going to say this one last time. I'm not flirting with you. Go away and stop being raper.
Fine, we can just be friends then, my sweet little egg. And then it's that horrible ooh face with like the colon and the number 3. Though I don't like it when my friends talk about my girl cock, sends weird signals. I would say that talking about a stranger's genitals is a little rapey, so maybe just cut back on that in general.
Yeah, and that was my mum was like, fucking hell, we've got to do something for the lesbians, young lesbians, just these weirdos and not...
He called you an egg.
I know.
That's trans term.
Is it?
For someone who's not come out as trans.
Well, Colin would beg to differ with you. Lesbian. I've already detransitioned, mate. Yeah, but do you know what I mean? That sort of conversation was just like, it's just some creepy dude. Like, I've never had a conversation like that with a lesbian.
No.
You never would you?
No.
This won't happen. That's an incel conversation, that, isn't it?
It's an incel conversation.
And I wouldn't even say that's a conversation with a bloke, because to be honest, I think that's an insult to blokes, because most blokes aren't weird and creepy like that, are they? They understand like boundaries. That is a person who is deliberately trying to violate a woman's boundaries.
Yeah.
Because that conversation felt like a boundary violation.
Yeah.
So it was quite joking, and I was trying to do it because I'm like, fuck off. But
yeah,
that dude was violating my boundaries.
Yeah.
So, and I think that really brought it home to me, like, fuck. Oh.
Yeah.
So that's the peak of my peak trans story.
Right. the peak or nadir.
Nadir. Well, you know what I mean. Like, that's like fucking hell, mate.
So my peak so I started a feminist society at my university.
Yeah.
And oh my god, and it was just me. I'd literally just kind of been awoken to feminism. I think I was probably always a feminist, but didn't realise I was, because as we all know, feminists are demonised, or there's like a straw feminist who I didn't want to relate with because I still wanted to be cool and attractive to men. But anyway, I came into feminism, realised that it affected me, it affected my life, that stuff still needs to change for women, even in the 21st century. I started a feminist group at my uni, and the aim was, it's like most uni groups, just, screen films and have a discussion group after, do a bake sale, raise money for the local women's shelter, try and talk about and raise awareness of issues in the community. For example, we teamed up with another uni society that were doing something about the living wage, increasing the living wage, because at my uni, a bunch of loads of the staff were paid like on just minimum wage, and the minimum wage in the UK at that time, it still is, I think, the illegal minimum wage per hour is not enough to live on. It is not a wage you can live on.
Not a living wage.
Yeah. And most of the minimum wage staff at the uni, it was women, it was 70% women. So that was a women's issue. We teamed up with other societies, really interesting. But we got so much vitriol, so much, like I started this Facebook group for it, and just like trolled by a medic who called us all a bunch of rug munchers. I went to the medical school to report him, and they did nothing about it, and he is a doctor now.
He's not called Adrian, is he?
No. No, and I can remember his name. His first name is like a sausage, and he's in Scotland. So if you come across a Scottish doctor whose first name is like a name of a sausage, and that's not like a weird euphemism, his first name is literally like a name of a sausage.
Okay, that's a nice code for not getting sued by a doctor.
But they were all like that. Anyway, trans issue kind of came up a bit, but it wasn't that big a deal. And in my head, I was just like, yeah, they're the most discriminated against group in the world. And I remember one of my friends, because I was like,
yeah, I always thought that was bullshit.
well, they were trying to explain the difference between like your gender and your gender, as I called it. Now I know it's like your sex and your gender.
Yeah.
But that how somebody could feel a different gender inside. And somebody said to me, it's like your gender is what you feel in your brain. That's like what trans people have. And I remember at the time thinking,
lady brain.
But I just went along with it because you want to be right on.
Yeah.
And you think, okay, they're really oppressed. They must be in so much distress. Yeah. And I remember thinking, how do you think like a woman? But then I just shoved that idea out my head. And one of my mates who started the Feminist Society with, I remember her saying to me at one point, because she was like super into the queer scene, and I've not spoken to her for years. We've not like had falling out, just drifted apart. And I'm wondering, so this all happened like, what year are we in? Probably about 8 years ago, 7-8 years ago. And I remember at the time she was proper into the queer scene, into the art scene, all of this. She's bisexual. And she was telling me that there was a problem, because I think I just said, yeah, because we need to think about trans people as well. And she'd said, now there is a bit of there's kind of a rift developing within feminism between trans people and women, because when women want to organise around things like abortion rights, there are quite often trans women saying, oh, but you can't call that a woman's issue because it doesn't affect us, we don't have abortions, we're women too. And I remember, and she...
That's interesting. So all those years ago it was coming up.
It was happening. And she said, why won't they just let the women organise? And I remember, because she was a bit weird, and I remember thinking, oh, is she just like, one of these weird conspiracy theories, or like one of these weird things that she's making a big deal out of? It's not a big deal, because I can't imagine that they would do that.
Why would they do what? They are
they're
the
allies. Yeah, they're allies. They wouldn't do that. And then I kind of took a step back from feminism, because a lot of mainstream feminism I wasn't connecting with. It was all just kind of
suck dicks for feminism.
But like so many arguments about like who was being cast to play what role and stuff, and I feel strongly about women's representation in the media and women's stories and stuff like that, but it seemed like that's all feminists were fighting about,
representation,
and I just couldn't be arsed, because and also I graduated, I didn't work for ages because I couldn't get a job, because I graduated at a really bad time in the economy, so I was just a bit depressed and all of this, living with my mum, not where I wanted to be when I finished uni, so I just had like other stuff going on, then trying to kickstart my career. And then a couple of years ago, I remember there was an interview with Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and she had said, somebody had asked her, are trans women? And she said, my feeling is that trans women are trans women. And I'm paraphrasing what she said, but she basically said, because trans women, like being born a girl is different, because trans women, for example, do not have to worry about the risk of female genital mutilation in places like Nigeria, and that is a reality, because she's Nigerian American, and she's like, that's the reality for girls in Nigeria that trans women don't have to worry about. So they obviously have empathy for them, and they have their own struggles, but there's a difference. And she was eviscerated by the left, and they didn't seem to see the irony in like eviscerating an outspoken black woman for saying black women have specific issues that males might not understand.
Yeah. And
that kind of piqued my interest, and I was like, something's going on here.
Yeah, this doesn't seem right.
And I realised that these kind of this, because my kind of peak trans has coincided with my peak leftism, and
I think a lot of people feel the same way. I think it makes you see the left in a whole different way when you are the object of their fury.
Yeah. And I think I hadn't realised at that point that the reason I'd stepped back from feminism a little bit was because of all the militant leftism in it as well. I kind of just stepped back because I had other stuff going on in my life, and I thought, I can't be arsed with this. But at that point I think that's why I was stepping back, because I've been seeing this attitude growing in the left. No room for discussion or discourse or disagreement or new philosophical political ideas. So that happened, and then I remember I was on Twitter. I was really getting into Twitter, and I was following quite a few like quite fun people, because I had a Twitter account since I got it in like 2008, since it launched or something. Never really used it.
Did you know how to use it? Because for years you don't know how to use it, do you? It's like weird. It's a weird thing, isn't it?
And I only really tweeted about Celebrity Big Brother. So I just like log on for Celebrity Big Brother, read everyone else's tweets about Celebrity Big Brother, tweet my own pithy commentary, and then like shut it down for months. But I'd started to follow like quite a few fun people, like just fun people who were funny, who tweeted, who like writers and journalists and comedians, who are like social commentators. And And I think I just kind of saw somebody arguing against something, and then on one of the people I followed already, and then saw there was like an argument, and I think somebody was saying something about like makeup or femininity, and I've been thinking that for a while. So like I've been thinking, you know, I've had problems with my gender as well, nothing so extreme as wanting to identify as the opposite sex, but I just hated that I was seen as a woman and that I was seen as different because of it. I just wanted to be a genderless blob where nobody saw me as a woman. So, and I, you know, feminine, and I really understood like that femininity is false. It's a construct that we all participate in because it makes life easier a lot of the time. And somebody was arguing about this, and then and about makeup not being innate to women, and I completely agreed. And I remember just, and kind of in the back of my mind, I'd still been thinking like, why do trans women, why so often are they like caricatures of women? Like, and I think I was on a shoot and I'd seen a trans woman, this was before I totally peaked, I'd seen a trans woman in the audience, and my first thought was like, oh, good for them. Yeah. And one of my colleagues actually said something horrible, and I didn't like that, and I still don't like that, even though I've peaked trans, like, it's not nice to be that way about someone else. But they were in like a sequin, it was the middle of the day, it was an auction house, middle of the day in this big warehouse, sequin halter neck top and miniskirt.
Yeah, very normal.
Yeah.
Women's. Well, I don't want to judge people for what they want to wear, but that's a man's version of what a
woman looks like. Yeah. And I was thinking back to that when I saw this Twitter argument, and I was like, yeah, there's sort of been something in my brain, and I just furiously Googled wearing lipstick does not make you a woman or something like that, and just like, I don't think like makeup isn't innate. And then I came across the gender critical subreddit.
Oh,
and then I clicked on,
there you go, bye.
And I read every post, and it's gotten huge now, and it's a bit of a weird place now, and it's kind of
lost a lot of it. It's just a bit, it's a bit it's not lefty anymore, is it?
No, and it's just a lot of other things. I don't really go on as much anymore, but like a couple of years ago it was, and I read every post. I was like, oh my god, these women are saying exactly what I've been saying, and they've got these good arguments that I didn't realise I was thinking and feeling.
Yeah, they've got objective evidence for what they're saying as well.
And then in a quick cascade, then it was the event that you mentioned. It was Miriam McLachlan getting punched at Speaker's Corner. I was like, this is like. Because so on the one hand, I realised that I didn't necessarily think trans women were women, and that was just the problem I had with ideology. But I was just like, just plodding along myself. It's like, yeah, it's just a political idea I'm not on board with, like conservatism or something like that. It's just a political idea I'm not on board with, but they can do them. And then Miriam McLachlan getting punched, and I was like, something's happening here. They're fighting against us. They're trying to do stuff. They're not just living their own lives.
They're trying to stop us doing what we want to do.
And I was like, hang on. And then Liam Madigan getting elected, a 19-year-old boy being elected women's officer.
That got to me, that did. Because I was at that stage ready to go, trans women are trans women. And he was like, he was like, oh, I'm a woman. And at the time, maybe I thought, oh, okay. But when I more looked, I didn't even know he was straight at the time. But to realise somebody's been identifying for like a year as a woman, and suddenly they are given a position of a woman's officer.
Yeah.
Which is just, you know, that covers a lot of issues. And, you know, what insights is he going to have about womanhood except watching loads of porn?
Yeah.
Like loads of lesbian porn. Like, that's not, I don't know, maybe I'm being facetious. He's probably read books about womanhood, so he's studied quite a lot. Maybe we should give it to a man.
Yeah.
He's read the Female Eunuch, I'm sure.
Can you imagine? whip. So burn the book. But yeah, and then just like a bunch of stuff, and then I went to a Women's Place UK meeting, and I was
Which one was that?
It was one in Manchester.
Okay.
So I felt like I was on my own for months after I peaked. So I sort of peaked trans at that point, and I felt like I couldn't talk to any friends about it at all. Yeah. Because I was afraid of what they would say.
It's really hard to bring up, isn't it, with your friends, because you don't know where they are in the journey.
And I still wasn't back involved with feminist activism. I was still kind of not really meeting other feminists in real life. None of this. And so I felt like I was on my own for a few months, and then I saw that this organisation had come up on Twitter called Women's Place UK. I gave them a follow, saw that they were doing an event in Manchester, and I was like, I'm going to go to that. And I went by myself. I was a bit worried, but I went by myself. And they were saying, and I just felt like I could breathe out.
Yeah.
I felt like I could breathe out that there are other women who think the same that I do, and that I just didn't feel alone. I honestly felt like I was going insane. I felt like I was looking around at all the stuff that was happening, and that because then I realised that the gender recognition consultation was coming up before I went to the Women's Place UK meeting. but I didn't have anyone to talk to about it, and I just felt like I was going insane. Like no one else could see it. No one else could see how ridiculous and sexist it all is. And it just, went to that first Women's Place UK meeting, and then like from there, the rest is history. So I was just like doing my own thing again for a few months, and then it was almost like a year later that I went to that event that we were both at.
Okay, so you've got a year on me, haven't you?
Yeah, but thereabouts. Yeah. But it's not a competition.
You win, big trans.
But yeah, just so much and more stuff. I just feel like I'm peaking over and over and over again as well since I've peaked. And I think
it's the same feeling, isn't it? Of like, come on, guys, are you not seeing this?
Yeah.
Look, he's getting his balls waxed.
Yeah.
But it's just one. You can't judge everybody by the actions of one tiny minority. But he's getting done for wanking in the office, and he's the head of the trans officer for the NUS.
Yeah.
He's a major player in all this. Yeah, but you can't really. I mean, that's just Amy Challenger's husband is a paedophile. Yeah, but I mean, like, that's just like one person, and it's really wrong for you, and it's just like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everybody covering up for him. The Dems carrying on with it despite everything. Doesn't even know what a woman is anymore.
And the Greens, the Greens like had such a lackluster, spineless reaction to Amy Challoner when he was still in the Greens.
Oh yeah,
awful. And then all the Karen White stuff as well. And then it's like, oh, it's just one.
Do you know though? Do you know what I find interesting about that? Because I did some statistic work. There were 3 recorded rapes the previous year. So if you do the maths, 3 recorded sexual attacks. If you do the maths, that one person over 3 days. If we extrapolate and say there would have been 4 attacks in the next year, they doubled the sexual assault rate in all of the UK prisons in 3 days.
Yeah.
So it's not insignificant at all.
Because it was 8, wasn't it 8 that year with Karen, and Karen was Stephen was responsible for 4 of them or something.
Yeah, so it's like it's one person, but it's 50% of the rapes.
Yeah.
Not a problem, okay. But do you know what's still going on? Like, Labour have just lost the general election, and one of the things that it was based on is this feeling of disconnect between the woke metropolitan elite and the Northern Heartlands. I suppose we're the Northern Heartlands, aren't we?
Yeah.
But just in general, like the normal people, I suppose. And John McDonnell, I've got friends who are always going on, like, I'm like, Corbyn, like, no, John McDonnell's a man, he understands it, mate. I've been, you know what I mean, like, he's a good lad. And do you know who he's back to be the next Labour leader?
Is it Dawn Butler?
It's Dawn Butler.
Yeah.
Dawn Butler, who has been the number 1 person pushing self-ID in the Labour Party.
Yeah.
Who's been bribed by
Glad
to push this agenda. No integrity, no respect. And this is John McDonnell, who is supposed to be the core of a lot of old school socialist values. Like, I respected him as a chancellor. And he just don't give a shit.
No.
Don't give a shit. It's going to carry on. If you got running, who's gonna put women for none of them, and it's just gonna. And it's not going to come out in a few years' time, and it's going to make the left unelectable.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Do they think we're unelectable now? Wait until you see people like Angela Rayner, who's running for the head of Labour. Yeah. She said to Liam Madigan, "Oh, I'm keeping a seat warm for you, love, in the Houses of Parliament."
Yeah.
Vomit in my mouth, please, thank you. Why can't you keep a seat warm for me, Angela?
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean? Like, a working class woman who's worked herself up like what you have. Oh, no, just going to give it to some rich little brat boy who thinks he's a woman and goes around harassing actual women and lesbians all the time now as it's becoming apparent. What a surprise.
I think it's so telling with a lot of this stuff as well. Obviously, you get working class trans people, but a lot of the prominent ones are middle class, and a lot of the prominent ones are males who transition. It's the same old shit. And a lot of the time, do you think like a working class woman who's a single mum who's working 3 jobs to feed her kids, do you think she has time to like wonder about her internal gender identity?
Well, do you know what I mean? She probably just puts on some trousers and be done with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so sexist, it's so classist, and it's so homophobic as well, because you cannot protect sexual orientation and gender identity at the same time. One negates the other.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're saying that sex doesn't really exist, which is what a lot of transgenderism does say in many, many, many ways, they say it does exist, but it's irrelevant and it's a spectrum.
Yeah.
You can't really say anything. And if sex doesn't exist, how could homosexuality exist?
Yeah.
It can't, can it?
Those protections
doesn't make sense.
Vanish,
make sense.
And they also say, but sex is a spectrum because of intersex people, and it's so intersex phobic. And I would recommend there's like a bunch of people on Twitter you can follow, different blogs that explain why they don't want to be involved in this.
Well, the exception does not prove the rule.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm not going to get into it, but the exception does not prove the rule. If you turn a light switch on and off, and sometimes it gets broken, it flickers in between, it doesn't mean that light switch is on a dimmer. It's a binary light switch, on or off. Sometimes it breaks and it won't go on or off, and it'll flicker about, and but in general, you don't say, well, that means that light switch is a binary.
Yeah.
So I just thought about that metaphor last night. I thought it was like, it's not like a dimmer switch where it does slowly change over time. No, it's either on or off.
Yeah. It's good. There are plenty of other writings that you can read about it.
No, don't just right. So what it is don't just talk about light switches when you're trying to argue this online, because it is complicated to argue online, because the people tie you down with all these crazy new sciences that they've got, and I think people love this idea of that they are woke and that they've got this secret knowledge
they're
that
right on.
isn't you can't see it. It's like, but I can, because I have a superior intellect, and I can. It's like a magic eye that they all pretend they can see, but nobody can actually see because it's bullshit.
Yeah,
and you're like, no, but it isn't actually, and they're like, well, I think that.
But the reforms to the Gender Recognition Act, I can't remember if you talked about it on the podcast before, but basically we probably should have done a summary at the start. But it's at the moment the Gender Recognition Act says that you have to have a medical diagnosis, and you have to have lived in the opposite sex for 2 years, and then you get a piece of legislation that changes your sex in law.
Yeah.
And the process often does take much longer than 2 years. And you're expected to get surgery as well. And a lot of them do want surgery because they have distress.
Surgery,
but
you need to be seeking surgery.
Yeah, seeking surgery.
And like medical interventions.
Yeah.
Well, this is like basically a gatekeep that was introduced because there are a lot of people who have no intention of going through this, who do not have gender dysphoria, which is the group of people who this law was intended to assist. Transvestites, basically. Which is an un-PC term now because they're now called cross-dressers. But this will...
No, that's un-PC. Is why you can't call them cross-dressers.
Oh, has it changed now?
Yeah, they're under the trans umbrella.
Oh, gender fluid.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, it was always the gatekeep to stop...
pervy men.
Yeah. Because it's a massive fetish, the sissy fetish.
Yeah.
And, which... To be honest, do what you like, mate. I don't care. Do it in your bedroom. Don't come around here into my bloody swimming sessions, women only swimming sessions. With your lady beard bits. You know what I mean? Like, keep it indoors, mate. And it's not. And it's all got out. And now.
And the reforms were to say that they were going to remove all of this, and you could apply for a Gender Recognition Act based on self-identification only. So you didn't need to go to a medical board anymore. You could just identify as that you're transgender and apply for this recognition certificate. Now, there were exemptions to the original Gender Recognition Act as well. So there were single-sex exemptions in the Equality Act, which I think the wording is proportionate means for legitimate aim or something like that. So basically, if it's...
So things like rape crisis centres, prisons,
and
changing
also,
rooms.
In the debates in Parliament, they codified into the Gender Recognition Act an exemption for hereditary titles, deeds and property. So if you are a lord or a lady...
I can't transition and steal my brother's title.
No.
Not that I am.
if he was a lord, no, you couldn't. And if he transitioned, he would still earn the title and the lands, even if he transitioned to a woman.
What a surprise!
Funny,
I cannot believe that.
But so the Gender Recognition Act changes were proposed for self-ID, and there was a consultation open at the time as well. And basically the problem that I had with it is that self-ID as a blanket law is ripe for abuse, and now we're getting onto like the whole wider trans debate, so I won't go too much into that.
We could just we never really talk about this on the show, do we?
No.
We tried to skate around it,
but this is just the peak trans stuff. But
we're going to get it all out there. I mean, I don't know, you might have different opinions to us on certain things. It seems like we're being, I think, quite unkind at certain times, but I'm past caring about quantifying everything that I say with this and that and that. I don't think that women's rights need to be quantified like that. I think, if you are a member of a superior social class and you are appropriating basically the lower class, then there's problems with that, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? Like if a group with lots of power is acting like the other group, then it's always done in a mocking way. It's never. I don't know. It's very hard for it to be done in a sympathetic way. But as women, we're not even classed as an oppressed class in many ways. You know, we're still not part of the hate crime legislation. So
it's just seen as normal, our subjugation, isn't it? And
well,
of
it's
course,
been going on for years, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Drags like, I mean, I don't know, drags like a gay part of gay male culture. But what's occurring now, it just feels like it's just got out of hand. You know, you've got men having fake abortions in bars and stuff like that, which is just revolting, and we're supposed to just smile and clap and go, oh, this is brilliant. But actually, I think women have got a right, even if you don't agree with my right to be offended, I've got a right to be offended, haven't I?
Yeah. I feel like I just peak over and over when something new happens. And I felt like I peaked when I found out that so not just people who've got gender recognition certificate, but just the wider trans umbrella, about 80% of them, men who've transitioned, keep their penises. And then these are the men that want access to women's spaces and want access to lesbian spaces especially. So these are previously heterosexual men who are calling themselves lesbians and like fully intact. That when I found out that statistic, that just piqued me again.
Well, didn't you read the Autostraddle article? Autostraddle is a lesbian magazine, and they wrote an article so basically telling lesbians how to suck dick.
Peaked again.
It was, I don't know why I read these things. I do read them, and I keep reading them, and then I keep reading them, and then you find out I'm not going. This is not for radio, actually. I won't tell you that story, but there are things that I wish.
But I think it's good to read what they're thinking, though.
Yeah, but
and just women at the women's march.
Please.
Oh, I forgot as well. Another part of my peach. So this happened around the same time. People calling pussy hats transphobic, and at the women's march, like we couldn't focus on cis women's issues.
Oh, this was Monroe Bergdorf.
No, yeah, he said that on the British Women's March, but it was like the year before at the American one as well. Like all that was kicking off there too. It's just like, yeah, Monroe Bergdorf said we can't centre reproductive rights at the Women's March. This is just what men have been saying to women for years, isn't it? For years, men say, stop talking about your bodies. Yeah.
All the time, which means we don't, which means we have loads of health problems, loads of body shame, loads of body stigma, you know, and that's mainly because the patriarchy thinks we have disgusting bodies that we should all be ashamed of, which is kind of what the transgender community says about us as well, you know.
Yeah.
Time and time again. And it's all bodies, really. They just seem to hate the physical self on a deeper philosophical level. It's like, nah, man, you need to be in your body. Your body's beautiful, and if you're not connected to your body, I feel really bad, and I want to help you reconnect to your body, because I think that it's central to being a human being and to being a whole person is to feel alive in your own body.
Speaking
you know
of, it's listening to detransition has made me peak all over again.
Oh yeah, I mean, my heart is just breaking. Do you know what I mean? Hearing all the stories, the way it's told through like lesbian communities, and just isolating women, you know what I mean? And like, yeah, we could talk about like so much stuff, but that's going on in the community and the whole debate and peak leftism and women being shut down. But yeah, and that another freedom of speech, not even touched on that, but the fact that you're not even allowed to say, I disagree with your I don't think you're no pronouns. Seems like a simple courtesy, but where do you draw the line? If a rapist wants you to use, if your rapist wanted you to use female pronouns, would you?
Absolutely not. And I would I would support any woman's right not to.
Well,
but I'd be in the wrong.
Well, do you know what? Yeah, because in a court of law, you may be forced to use the correct pronouns for your rapist, which was the case with Maria McLaughlin. She was the woman in Hyde Park Corner.
She got punched.
Found guilty in a court of law.
Yeah.
The judge directed her to use female pronouns for her attacker, which she didn't, or she tried to but forgot. When you're giving testimony, you know, you're thinking about your testimony, trying to give it accurate. You're in an official building, you know, you shouldn't be focusing on correct pronouns, so she didn't. And for that, the judge didn't give her compensation. And he said it in the remarks. He said, because you refused to be polite and give that thug who beat you up the right pronouns, I will not give you compensation.
Yeah.
So basically, in a court of law, theoretically, dude could rape you, and then he could rape you again in your head by making you... Oh, I'm sorry. I just find it abhorrent. I just find it fascist mind fascism. Not even like they want... It's not even that they want you to say the words, they need you to believe the words.
Yeah, that's it. It's the wrong belief. And if you say anything, and I've noticed this in other wider groups now that aren't even about it, if you say anything that draws attention to the fact that women are oppressed due to our bodies, you get that sounds suspiciously turfy to me. I've had that a bunch of times.
I smell turf. That's another thing as well. The way they talk, I smell a turf. It's disgusting. It's like, that's the way that you talk about women, as you know, it's always in very misogynistic tropes that we are castigated in these ways. Do you know what I mean?
But yeah, if let us know your Pete Trans story. There's like a bunch. There's an open thread on the gender critical subreddit. In like loads of different Facebook groups. There's like, everybody always shares their Pete Trans stories. And I mean, like, I just gave like a short rundown. It was of mine, but there was like lots of other stuff that happened.
There's loads of things.
I honestly feel like I peak again every day when something happens.
Well, I think this has been quite therapeutic today, hasn't it? Getting it all off his chest. Well, it'll continue to happen. I mean, I don't know where we are going with this, because somebody told me this was like a 10-year battle, and I was like, yeah, right, we'll have it done in it's a couple of years, it'll be fine. And now I'm like, it is not 10 years.
Yeah,
20 years.
I thought about 18 months ago it would come down like a house of cards, because in a really short span of time we had Jess Bradley, an US trans officer, wanking off in his office and putting it on the on his blog, and he also linked to a weird like fetish blog or a paedophile blog. Well, yeah, he's
like loads of fetishizing schoolboys.
Yeah, and that happened, and then like the next week all the stuff with Amy Challoner happened. So Amy Challoner's father.
Amy Challoner is a Green Party
yeah,
youth,
at the time,
like only about 20, but really groomed for leadership, really, weren't they?
Yep, and
promoted in the party.
He his dad raped a 10-year-old girl in their attic. Amy Challoner, this is unclear whether Amy Challoner covered up for his dad. And
he was aware of it though when he picked his dad to be his election agent.
Yes, and he listed the house where it all happened, and he was aware of like
which was a crime scene at the time, an active crime scene
to be election headquarters
for the Green Party
and for the local Green Party constituency. And Green Party just like spineless. And then Caroline Lucas, and I really trusted her and I really liked her, and she did that op-ed in the Guardian, and she like barely paid lip service to all that horrible stuff and went on about how we needed to be kinder to trans people. And then so that happened, and then a few days later the Karen White stuff came out. Stephen White raped a lot of women, went to prison, transitioned in quotation marks in prison, went to a women's prison and assaulted women.
And then Liam Madigan called all the women liars.
Yes, he did. And I thought that all happened in about 2 weeks, and I thought, this is it, the public are going to cotton on.
They're going to wake up, they're going to know.
This has all happened in the space of about 2 or 3 weeks. It's happened, and nothing. 18 months later, nothing.
Yeah, no, crickets. Yeah. It's maddening. But do you know what it is though as well? The scary thing is it's all the UN. It's UN legislation, and it's SOGI. They have merged now gender identity and sexual orientation, and this is the battle. So SOGI, you'll find it in legislation. It's called SOGI, SOGI,
sexual
orientation and gender identity.
Okay.
And this linking, you find legislation globally now. Watch out for it. Anywhere you see SOGI, this is the problem. Sexual orientation and gender identity. They are taking two opposing things and joining them together. So they are banning conversion therapy for sexual orientation and gender identity, which means that, fair enough for sexual orientation, it's torture to try to change somebody's sexual orientation, and it doesn't work. They have taken the same studies. Yeah, this was interesting. There was the American Pediatric Association, has taken the same studies. So it's taken a study about sexual orientation in adults and how it doesn't work for changing your sexual orientation. They have then cited that as evidence that alternative treatment should never be given for children, that affirmative only approaches should be used because everything else is conversion therapy. And the evidence they cite for their source is
about sexual orientation, not
in
gender
adults,
identity.
In adults. So they are, and they've been pulled up for this because this is misleading. This is the Pediatric Association of America making guidelines, twisting facts to push an affirmation only approach, which in effect works as conversion therapy, because we all know that 80% of gender dysphoric children grow up to be gay and lesbian. So by putting them on this medical pathway and refusing to give them other treatments because that's conversion therapy, you are effectively taking a gay, let's say a gay boy, and then converting him into a straight woman.
Yeah.
Who has zero sexual function now because of the drugs that you've given them. I'm sorry.
So, and when we say affirmative healthcare, we mean affirming that they are a different sex.
You're not allowed to go, okay, it's interesting that you feel like that. Maybe we can explore why you feel like that. What's
why you
going
feel that
on.
Disconnect with your body.
Yeah, because sometimes it's sexual abuse. Sometimes it's, just their homosexuality, anxiety. They're getting bullied for being gender non-conforming.
Other body dysmorphias.
They're children and they don't understand, like, wearing the clothes of the opposite sex won't make you the opposite sex. Like, there's a lot going on, and there's this. It's just totally unscientific and twisting, and again, this merger of sexual orientation and gender identity. It's in UN legislation. My friend's been getting me into this recently because she's mad on it. It's New World Order style. One government, like when a piece of legislation comes up high up and it goes through the human rights legislation, then it's really, really hard to pick apart, and that's just global,
right?
And that's what's happening. That's why it's happening in a really interesting thing on the panel. Somebody mentioned the link between gender identity and sexual orientation, and how conversion therapy was now on both of them. So it's very hard for clinicians to offer alternative therapies other than just affirming them and giving them drugs. And one of the panelists who was from Germany said, yes, she had this, it was the same thing in Germany, is that they've put them together, and that they're banning conversion therapy of gender identity, which is what happens because you've put gender identity and sexual orientation together, and that's been done high up in human rights legislation. So that's why it's going global, and that's why it's everywhere now. And we think we're doing well because, like, one country that feels like it's turning the tide, but, like, everywhere else hasn't, has it?
Yeah, the battle might be won, even if it is, but the war is not over.
But it'd never be over. I don't know. It's going to continue for quite a long time, I think, and I'm starting to have. I think maybe after all this, like, stuff with the Tories getting in and stuff, I'm like, I think I want to hibernate.
Need to lie down.
I need to lie down.
I think I need a really long lie down.
Like, maybe just for winter, just to have a little think and recuperate and think about what the hell are we doing strategically, like, long term. Let's think about this. But at the end of the day, I don't feel like it's fair, because all these little groups, we're like trying to fix the world almost. You know what I mean? And it's
it shouldn't be us. It should be the people in charge. Actually, like, take the finger out their bums and
do something.
Yeah,
like, it's so upsetting because it's all these institutions as well, like Women's Aid and the Fawcett Society and all these groups that were established to help women and to support women's rights. All the organisations that were supporting children's rights, human rights, they've all been.
What's interesting about all the women's sector stuff is a lot of them that are adopting these guidelines are the people that work in the offices, that work in, like, the corporate headquarters. They're not necessarily women on the front line.
No.
And a lot of women who are working in shelters on the front line will say that they never want to, like, necessarily turn a trans person away without getting appropriate help from somewhere, or without giving them a number for somewhere.
Well, this is the thing that frustrates me, is there's lots of provision for all the genders.
Yeah,
there is. It's like, it's really hard to get funding as a woman-only service. You have to offer services to men, or you won't get the grants.
Yeah.
So there are opportunities for them to get support. This is what very much frustrates me. It's just women are not allowed to be on their own anymore.
Yeah,
we're not allowed to congregate without the presence of men. That is it. All of it.
All
of it. Like, I got women. What are you up to?
We need a man to supervise us in case we ever have the dangerous idea of wanting to congregate without a man to supervise us. It's honestly.
The thing is, I didn't even mind about men supervising me until
I didn't have a choice that I could never have that. Yeah. And I think with a lot of this, it's so classist. I said it earlier as well, but it's so true. Like, these new self-ID laws that were being pushed, where you just self-identify, these are going to affect working class women and marginalised women the most. All these women that are saying, yeah, that's fine, self-ID, these that are usually middle class, university educated, they are not as likely to have to face these laws head on. So, for example, in prisons and in women's shelters. Now, if you come from a lower economic background, it's just the fact that most of the women in prison are from lower economic backgrounds. They're from, like, have chaotic lifestyles, have histories of abuse and stuff. So these women that are making these laws that are going to happen in prison, or these policies that are going to affect prisons, are most likely never going to end up in prison, never going to be on the receiving end of being in a confined space with a man. And when women are vulnerable to pregnancy, how can you justify putting a male in a prison? And also with women's shelters as well. Now, we know that domestic violence can affect any woman regardless of her wealth or background or class. But if you are a woman who is middle class, and this is just very generally speaking, obviously it's not all middle class women, if you are a woman who's middle class or upper class and you have money, you are more likely to have a wider social network to help you if the worst happens, if you do need to flee because of domestic violence. If you are working class and you need to flee because of domestic violence, you are more likely to have to rely entirely on the state. And so you are going to be affected by these laws. And obviously I'm not saying that sometimes women, middle class women do find themselves in that position as well, and this is just, but it's very general that it is working class and poor women who are going to feel the effect of these laws even more. And single sex spaces, like in swimming pools, single sex swim sessions, or even toilets and stuff like that, when they're making unisex toilets in a bid to be more inclusive, a lot of Orthodox Jews and religious Muslim women can't go there now, and they can't go there because,
well, this inclusion is all about excluding certain groups of people and including others. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not against it. I think I've had a big long think through about the third space thing, and I think it's really, really important that we do create these third space mixed spaces, because, you know, young fathers want to change their children in a safe environment.
Yeah,
and
of course.
That is a difficulty. My brother takes his kids swimming, and if I'm not there to go and change with the girls, he's got 2 daughters, you know, he'll take them into the men's, and it's, you know,
but it's not ideal. Yeah,
it's fine. He's there to supervise, so nothing's going to happen. But, you know, it'd be better for him if there was a mixed changing room.
Yeah, sure. And for women as well, often care for older family members, men and women.
I mean,
and it'd be easier for them as well.
This is the thing. If you're a carer and you've got a patient and there's no mixed facility for changing or toileting facilities, then it's really awkward and difficult. You know, if you're a female carer, do you want to go into the men's with your, you know, you don't want to go into that territory, and you know, it's boundary violation in a funny way, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So I do think there's a good space for third options always, and all this stuff. It's like, we need to find common ground. It's really fucking easy, the ground that we need to come to.
But they'll just take women's spaces.
It just won't come, because it's never been about that. It's never about that. It's all about destroying women's boundaries, women's rights to privacy, women's rights to be away from men. And you can tell that because the main targets of all of the abuse, the people who've had it the worst throughout all of this and continue to bear the brunt of it, is lesbians. Yeah. It's women who say, nope, fuck off. Nope, don't want it. Nope, leave me alone. You're not allowed to say that anymore. No. That's exclusionary, isn't it?
And then they act like it's these women who have a different philosophical opinion about what a woman is due to the fact that they are, you know, women. They act like they are these evil people. It's TERFs. If you're called a TERF, that's like a silencer because you are evil. And like last time I checked, it wasn't lesbians beating up trans people, and like we've talked about this before as well, but it's not, it's men that do it. But then you're acting like the men have done it because they read a Julie Bindel column. Yeah, like, yeah. I don't think,
they're not sitting around reading Sheila Jeffries getting het up and like, oh,
need to go,
bloody Sheila, I'm not having this. I'm not having this.
And in the UK, like, the murder rate is really, like, we're talking about it so much now, and we've been chatting for ages, right? It was supposed to just be peak trans, but I feel like I've told you my peak trans story, but I also feel like I peak every day. I feel like I peak. So basically, and I'm going to say it again, I said it at the start, I'm going to say it again, I obviously don't want trans people to have a hard life. I just want them to leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah,
that is what it comes down to. Let the women organise. I'll always remember I think she might be a bit of a weirdo now, and she might have got totally on the trans train, but when she said let the women organise, that's what I think. Just let the women organise and leave us alone.
Well, I don't know, like, what do you think we get up to when you're not there? Honestly, it's like it's real. You're not missing. I mean,
you're not missing out.
We don't get on. I can't actually speak now because I'm genuinely trying to speak and I can't. Do we take all our clothes off and dance naked around a fire of burning men and then have crazy lesbian sex, like, for days on end? I fucking wish, mate. But no, unfortunately not. We just talk about our periods a little bit and then we don't even slag men off that much, do we?
No, we just talk about what needs to change and what we need to...
And then I don't know.
Yeah, we just talk about what we need to do to make stuff better.
You'd be really disappointed. We're not really genius masterminds trying to take over the world. Just leave. I don't know, like, if you're not wanted somewhere, don't go. Someone doesn't invite me to a party, I'm gonna be like, maybe I really want to go to the party. No, my mates are going to the party, but they didn't invite me.
Do you want to be somewhere where people don't want you to be there? Like, that's what
it's self-respect. But no, don't want to go to the party anyway. I've got other plans to do better things. That's what I do.
Well, make your own party. Have a great party. Like...
Sausage party.
But
please, don't unfollow us and send us nasty messages for this. Like, if you do have,
I mean, to be
if
fair,
you do disagree, then actually have a conversation with us. This is the thing. I'll never back down for a conversation with somebody who genuinely wants to discuss anything with me.
Yeah.
I really like having a conversation and a discussion. I genuinely want to know why you might believe, women have penises.
I think the people who are still following us are probably I think they would have unfollowed us by now, to be honest, because I think they know our stance. Yeah, we've dropped
a few massive hints, like inviting Posey Parker to our event. Oh, who's she? Is it? Oh, I just like the name.
And hosting one about detransitioners as well.
That's a bit of a dead giveaway there, but. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of bandwidth. Like there is a reason why we don't talk about it on our main show, isn't it? And it's not just because we're scared of backlash. It's because there's more things than just
exactly.
this in the world for women, and we do want to focus on that.
I think a lot of these rabid leftists or rabid people who love to call women TERFs think that all we do is sit around and talk about it, and we literally have other feminist stuff to be getting on with as well, like violence against women and girls more broadly.
It's just a distraction, isn't it? We try to get on with it, and then it's just, oh god, another thing.
But if you're having to defend the literal definition of a woman, how can you defend all those existing women's protections? And I just feel like I'm just wasting my time defending what the definition of a woman is, when I could be like, it's just taking up so much time to defend these really basic things that I thought we all agreed on years ago. But
well, I cannot believe, this is the thing, I cannot believe how dare you pretend that we don't exist. That's all it is. Oh, what's a woman? Fuck off, dickhead. Fuck off. Oh no, just fuck off. Please don't do this. Why are you doing this? Oh, this is an interesting tactic. It's working very well. Like,
you believe womanhood is a feeling. Moreover, you believe it is a feeling that exists in a male brain. Well done, you.
Oh my god, the patriarchy. I must give it to the patriarchy. It is fucking smart. Like, who would have thought 20 years ago that feminists would be sitting around trying to prove how much stronger men are than women?
Just to prove that we're different, yeah?
Yeah, oh, can we have our sports, please? Oh, but you have got such bigger lungs than we have. Your muscle is like, your muscles are huge. We are the fairer sex. This is literally what we're having to do to keep our own, like, sports and spaces and rights and dignities. It's disgusting, and I'm really annoyed, and I'm yeah.
And on that, I think we do need to wrap it up. All right, let us know if you've got any Pete Trans stories. Let us know, and we'll see you on another episode of Suffragette City Radio Extra.
Bye.